Hi, Lori. I did it. You didn't really hear on there.
But something to do, we skip the top.
Oh, no.
So I just want to make sure we get done with Lynn so we don't
Okay.
scoot her to the second meeting.
Okay. Okay, we'll have you in between then.
Okay.
Nope, you're the second one.
I'm the second, right?
Yeah, we'll have Lynn go first. And then we'll do Kristy.
Okay.
Sound good? Okay.
There's so much static cling in my life, I can't take it. Oh my gosh! Stuck like this. Shirts are stuck, things.
Yeah.
Please. Oh, this one.
One bad sweep of this arm, and like I could like.
Oh, probably.
Stories.
Sorry.
We're good.
Two? No.
Nope. Is anyone else coming? I thought there should be someone on the front. No. Shh, no talking.
Brendan, you got my order, right? At the last minute?
We have everybody's orders.
Okay.
They've been placed, and I'm gonna guess first week in March is what they're anticipating. It's when they order and get them in, so
I was just
very
tardy.
efficient this year.
Just quite tardy on getting mine in, so thank you.
All right, it's 5:30. I will call the work session to order. Up first, we're going to be talking about water meter technology. Ms. Tschudi and Mr. Simmons.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting us talk about the advanced metering infrastructure. We were scheduled at the end of 2025, and I needed to get some more information in front of you, so thank you for letting me reschedule. So tonight we're going to be talking about advanced metering infrastructure, and it will be on the 2026 CIP. So the goals for tonight are to leave with a better understanding of what is AMI, to learn the difference between the current meter reading technology that we have right now and AMI, to revisit the capital plan, and then what would be the timeline if we were to implement, and then to receive some council direction. So what is AMI? Advanced Metering Infrastructure is an integrated fixed network system that enables two-way communication between a utility and its customers. So think of how Xcel Energy or CenterPoint Energy is currently reading your utilities and getting your readings. That's how this would be used. Water usage information is collected in real time, eliminating the need for manual reads. And then the network communicates from something called a FlexNet base station. We could call it like a smart point that runs on a primary license FCC frequency that would only be assigned to us. And these FlexNet base stations are usually placed in a high point in the city, so usually it's a water tower. So benefits of AMI, I'll go over some and then I'll pass it over to Andrew. So billing accuracy. Billing accuracy, we're going to be reducing the need for estimated readings because of failing meters. You can set up alerts if there's a meter that's not reading. The city can do that. So if there's a meter that's not reading at any point during the month, we can set up an alert and let us know, hey, there's an issue with this meter. Rather than waiting until the readings come back, we download them into the computer and then we get a report that's called a no-read report. Leak detection, the system will detect unusual consumption patterns and send an alert to city staff. So if somebody is watering their lawn or they have a leak in their irrigation system, you can set parameters for these types of unusual consumption patterns, and then moving forward, once we hand this software over to the users, they can do the same. Right now, if somebody has a leak, we don't find out about it until after we read the meters. They get their bill, and sometimes, it could be a month and a half before we find out about it, and now that leak could still be going on somewhere. A really leaky toilet could leak somewhere around 10,000 to 30,000 gallons a month, believe it or not. That's a really leaky toilet. And sometimes you think about company that comes over, they go downstairs and they use the downstairs bathroom. You haven't used that downstairs bathroom in a year. That toilet sticks open and you don't go down there, you don't hear it. And now you've gone through 30,000 gallons of water. And it happens. I've triaged some of these calls, so.
I've
Do
been
we
one of
set-
those calls.
No. Do we set the alert limit, so if you get to a certain amount, then it'll, like, we can decide
We
that?
certainly could.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know a ton about the software, so I'm gonna probably try and steer you away from that part of it tonight.
Okay.
But, I think there are a lot, Andrew
So
probably
what
knows a
you
little
could
bit more
say,
about there.
you could say like if, because we don't want any more alerts than
Yeah.
we need, right? Because you don't want to respond to everything. But some of them, what other people do is they say, okay, if someone uses, like, let's just say 300 gallons for a number of consecutive hours, then we get alerted.
Okay.
So, you know, like during your normal day, you using stuff in your house, it wouldn't alert. But if it continues for an extended period of time, then
Okay.
we would get an alert.
Okay, I was just curious about the threshold of that, so when you know when it starts to alert. But it is real time then, so whatever
Yes.
that gets set to comes to you, then you can contact the homeowner before the end of the billing cycle?
Yes, absolutely,
Okay.
before the end of the day.
Okay.
And when you're saying we're setting these parameters, is it we the city or we the resident?
Yeah, so we the city.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna be, we don't like to get those calls anyway,
Yeah.
so, I think in the beginning, before we would roll out any sort of like software for the residents, we wanna make sure that we know how the software works, and so we would be setting those thresholds as well.
And on the consumer side, there would also be able to set those limits. So if you say at your house that you want to use 10,000 gallons for the month, and you want to alert when you get to 8,
Okay.
then you will be alerted, and you can say, okay, I need to change my habits the last 27 days of the month.
Yeah,
You know, so you got, so people are able to, I guess, take control of their own usage rather than being surprised. I mean, at my house, I don't use a lot of water, so I don't really care what the water bill is when it comes. I just pay it and move on. But some people, if they have, I don't have teenagers yet or whatever, so, you know, as that goes up and down, people are,
Well, lawn watering too in the
That
summer,
too.
that'd be helpful to know, like, oh, I've hit my limit, I guess.
I can dial it back or whatever.
I just want to be clear, because that's a more advanced function of these systems to extend it to the end user. So capable of doing that,
Mhm.
capable of end user entering in their parameters. We're not going to launch it with that, but when we decide to flip the switch, is there any additional software or module or anything we have to buy to enable the end user interface?
yep,
There
yep,
is, okay.
yep, and I can, go over that
right.
in detail later if you want, and I do have the invoice, the quote here in detail if you want me to go over that cost. So reduced operating costs, so it would eliminate the manual meter readings. When I talk about manual meter readings, it's staff going around in their trucks and driving around every street in Carver. And some of the streets they have to go down twice because they have to get really close to certain houses depending on where their meter is placed, just because they can't get a read the first time. And then office staff also spends quite a bit of time. They have to load this handheld, then they have to download the readings. And so there's quite a bit of a process that goes into these monthly meter bill preparations. And then we estimated about 150 calls per year inquiring about water usage or high bills. So Ashley, our utility billing and finance technician, has been out. She was out all last week, and so I've been triaging a lot of the calls, and which has been nice because I don't get to do that a lot. And I've had some tough ones. One in particular, the gentleman, the usage went from about 8,000 gallons a month to 31,000 gallons, and so immediately there's something wrong with his meter. Of course, the water didn't go through his meter, so it's really hard to triage that kind of a situation because you want to help the customer, you want to help the resident, but you also need to figure out what happened. But when we don't have any sort of technology to tell us at what point in the last month and a half that happened, we're throwing darts. So it's sending the utility guys out there You know, I spent time triaging, going through options of checking toilets, going and reading his meter for me to see how much he's used now in the last 2 weeks since we read meters. So I'd say we probably spent, I don't know, 5 hours on that.
I mean, it takes time for you to take the call, talk to people, and then you gotta talk to Jordan, or utility staff. They gotta go out, read the meter, try to get the data from that, analyze the data, and then you gotta, talk back to them or
Yeah.
call them back.
Yeah.
With this system, Ashley would be able to pull up their account online, and then they can, with the meter upgrades, you'll be actually see down to the gallon rather than to the thousands of gallons, which we are right now. So every time there's a little check mark on the meter, it's 1,000 gallons, not a gallon, right? So it kind of gets tough to interpret some of that data when you're looking at such a coarse view. But when you get into a finer view, you're able to see things and say your water softener is regenning 6 times at 3 a.m. or whatever, and they're able to figure that out.
Yeah.
On our end, selfishly, what it would be super nice for our utility to have is better control of, or better knowledge of our water usage. As we continue to grow, we're going to be adding a lot of water-related assets, wells, treatment plants, and the better information we have on our actual usage, the better the engineers can design our system to fit our needs and what the future is going to bring. So right now, when we are looking at what we pumped for the year, we know what we pumped, but what we sold goes from the middle of December of the previous year to the middle of January. So there's kind of this weird, we don't have it exact, can't marry it up perfectly, but with this we could set up our own reads and just click a button just for us and know exactly how much people are using.
And then finally, increased customer engagement. We talked a lot about that. AMI would empower customers to monitor their consumption and educate water conservation with the addition of the customer portal. As Councilmember Conrade was talking about irrigation, I mean, that's a great example of people just being aware of how much water they're using while they're irrigating their lawns in the summertime, or how much water they're using when they're filling up their pool or different things like that. So I think educating residents when they can actually see it when it's physically happening, rather than a month and a half later and then they're upset about a high water bill. So drive-by reads is our current system. So that handheld device you see on the left with the green, that is our exact device that Ashley will load all of the addresses that the city of Carver into, and then she hands it back to the public service utilities technicians, and they drive around the entire city. And it communicates with something called an MXU, a meter transceiver unit, and that sends the information back to that device. We're currently using census water meters, so they're installed all across the city. Census water meters are sold to us by a company called Minn, and we've been using them, I don't even know, forever. So they're installed in all of the Carver homes and buildings, and the water, when it moves through the meter, that's what gets charged on the utility bill. So a lot of times when customers do call and they say, there's gotta be something wrong with my meter, I'm happy to investigate it for them, but we always say whatever moves through the meter is what you actually use, unfortunately. So we have to charge you for what you used unless we can prove otherwise. So, and technically we hear when a meter starts to die, the reading slows down and it doesn't speed up unless it's a faulty meter of some sort. So what's the difference between the drive-by and then the AMI FlexNet Smart Utility? So as I spoke about before, a base station would be mounted on a high point in the city, which would be a water tower. And then with the push of a button, the city office staff would transmit that signal, which is special to us, using the FCC frequency. And it would come from those same devices that are already installed, the MXUs. And then it would send that signal back to the technology, the software that we have installed here at the city. There are about 500 iPro meters that would need to be upgraded in order to read to the gallon. And a water meter swap takes about 30 minutes. So our staff have volunteered to, if this is approved, well, actually, these meters need to be upgraded anyway. So we're gonna slowly start upgrading these meters because they more than likely aren't reading accurately. They're still alive and they're still reading, but more than likely they aren't reading as accurately as we would like them to. So the goal would be to replace these eventually. They're old. And so once these 500 are upgraded, then they can read to the gallon. We also have about 800 MXUs, that's that wire you see coming out of that beige-ish box, that need to be upgraded in order to transmit the signal to the FlexNet station.
Is it correct to assume that these are probably in the older homes in our community?
That would be correct.
So painting in broad brush strokes, is it the Bluffs, is it Midtown Carver and downtown?
Downtown is a lot of them,
Okay.
the Bluffs. Andrew has them all mapped out.
Okay.
Just for clarification, when these things age and they start not reading accurately, that's usually an underreporting,
Correct.
is my experience, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that for people that might think they're getting negatively impacted. It's usually the opposite.
Correct.
It's usually underreporting. Okay.
Correct.
I was kind of wondering the same too, and just if we need to get careful, be sensitive to the messaging that, or maybe if we have an idea of, like, typically it's, maybe not more than 5% or not more than 10, like, do we have any data points to say? We know it's not as precise, but it's typically under, or if it's over, we're not seeing, whatever that is, fill in the blank, just so people don't start making up scenarios.
Yeah, I can check
Just-
with
yeah, I
Accor
just-
in Maine. I don't know the exact
Yeah, okay.
amount.
I don't want the perception that, they're running inaccurate.
Right.
Well, that's when they're
Context.
dying, when
Yeah.
they're like
Yeah.
running out of life expectancy.
Yeah, because they do have batteries in them. So,
Now that I thought of a question, maybe for Andrew too, how do you know that? Like, you slowly see it over like a 6 months or within like 6 weeks?
The older meters have moving parts.
Okay.
Like these new meters,
I
they don't
can
actually.
hear it, like, does it make a
No. So like the new meters that have been being installed, like these aren't like brand new meters, right? The meters that we've been putting on houses for the last 5 years are this iPro meter, but they don't have any moving parts. Like the old meters, actually something spins in them to actually count the water. And as time goes by, that part does not work as well, so you lose your efficiency, just like anything else that moves. This is eventually not gonna work as well.
Oh, thank you.
and then we would, if it were to completely stop, then we would get an alert on our no read report monthly, if it were to actually completely stop.
What is the life expectancy of one of these old meters and or MXUs?
They're about 20 years.
Okay. And so these are reaching, these 500, these are,
That's what would be interesting to look at, the actual date of the install of those meters to see how many match up with that. But the cool thing with the new technologies that a lot of the utilities are doing, rather than replacing meters just based on the date, like that's a lot of times we just say, okay, it's gonna last 20 years, and when we get to year 19 or year 20, we just say we replace it if it's working or not. With the new meters, you're able to actually get a little bit of reporting out of it every time you ping it, so you can actually see how well they're doing. So if the batteries are maybe lasting longer than we would expect, so.
I'm just wondering for city planning and cost purposes, were we going to have to be replacing these meters in the next 3 years anyway, or do they have 10 years left on them?
You would probably space it out a little bit more rather than doing the 500 at once. We probably wouldn't have done 500 next year, but we would have been replacing meters as we go, so.
I will say too that with the technology continually being upgraded, as far as like the meter reading software, there would be a time where these meters may not communicate with the software anymore. I don't know what that is, but I know that our sales rep has mentioned that to me. Is that a sales tactic? I don't know, but you know what they say. You know, this technology is running out, but I don't know a lot about technology.
If we upgrade, what's the lifespan on the technology?
I've asked that, and he said that this technology will be around for a long time. It's communicating with the FCC wavelength frequency, so, because I asked the same thing.
Because if we do all this money to upgrade now, what's to say in 5 years they don't
I
go on us again?
100% agree with you, and I will double, triple.
Okay.
Yes. So on this map, we had him do a propagation analysis, and what this is it shows if we were to install 2 of the FlexNet stations, one on each of the towers, what does our coverage look like? And so we have a 99.56% coverage on if we were to do 2 towers, both towers. There's 9 homes that may not get the coverage, and they're right in that little purple area down there by Bluff Park. That's may not. And so what we would do with those is we would either do a drive-by, or we have a little repeater option where we could mount something on just like kind of like a higher stake, and then it would bounce off of the FlexNet station, read those 9 meters, and then report back to us. So,
And those are the only spots in town is?
yep.
Main
Yep.
Street? Okay.
And so this does cover the whole entire southwest area, the north area, the expansion of Carver.
Did we talk about having 2 of these initially, or was it just 1?
So I think we talked about having 2, but we talked about the potential that 1 may cover the entire city. If we were to go from 2 down to 1, it would decrease the cost by about $75,000.
Okay, and do we have a map of that to show what 1 would cover?
I do not have a map of that. I can get a map of that.
Can we see that?
Yeah,
I'd like to
absolutely.
see that.
Do you or Andrew have the radio spectrum this is operating on? Do they give you that?
Radio spectrum.
Where it's operating?
I don't know.
2.4 gig?
I don't know that.
Okay. Well, it goes to the question of longevity. Things that are cellular have the lifespan of that type of cellular network. If it is an FCC controlled frequency that is ours, then it's indefinite. I'm just curious what the provider is telling you.
I believe Lynn said it's an FCC.
Yeah. What should I ask?
You should what band it's operating in, what frequency band it's operating in.
Okay.
Well, no, those do change.
Yeah.
So, your old TV with rabbit ear antennas, the reason those went away is not because so much the technology, it's the FCC repurposed it for cellular. So there are parts of the spectrum that have, 50 years out where they'll be repurposed. So those things,
Like they just sell it? Or,
the FCC can repurpose it, yeah.
okay.
So,
Thank you, Erin.
not that I'm too worried about it. Okay, so
Next question.
full disclosure, I don't want to be pressing my thumb down on this, but this is the stuff that's been in my scope for 20 years. My team sold this kind of stuff for 20 years, so I'm intimately familiar with it. Maybe 4 years ago. So I haven't been dealing with this in the last 4 years, but when I was a Greenhorn city councilman 3 years ago, I was a proponent that we move to this.
Okay.
So I'm happy to see it got traction. But there are, maybe I'll come in and just take a look at the technical specs
Yeah,
of what we're doing.
absolutely. I appreciate
And then give
that.
us the summary remarks.
Oh, I appreciate
and
somebody
out the
knows
box.
this.
Okay.
I will get that information. Thank you. So I asked for some cities that are using the AMI technology for meter reading. A couple that have just switched over from the walk-by, drive-by to the full AMI are Buffalo and Loretto, I know. And so those are the two that just recently did what we're proposing to do.
So Chan and Chaska don't use this? They still do drive-by?
They could use it, but it could be, have been using it for a long time. These are just recent,
Okay.
recent ones, yep. And they could use a different vendor.
Yeah,
but-
they could be using
Badger
or
meters?
something else. These
Yep.
are all Corn Main, I think,
Yeah.
Ferguson.
Right, I'm just curious, because they weren't
Yeah,
listed on here,
yeah,
so I would hardly believe that Chan has.
Probably a
Chaska
different
is
meter type, yeah.
Driving around.
So when we look at what we had planned, we've been talking about this, shortly after I started, I was asking just about like, how can we be more efficient with the meter reading? You know, I just noticed we didn't have a very large staff at that time. And then, you know, we'd lose a couple staff members and then we'd gain a couple staff members. And I just thought, how can we make this more efficient? I started talking to the Corn Main people and then asked if we could start putting some money into the CIP. So staff has been aware of the project goals since 2024 and the need to upgrade the MXUs, the water meters. So in 2024, we budgeted $190,000 for the meter reading system. And then that was in 25. So we knew about it in 24, we put it away in 25, and then for 2026, we have $309,500. So we didn't use any of those funds as of yet. So the total CIP funds available for the project are $500 shy of $500,000. So what does this system upgrade cost? So these are the estimated one-time costs. So for the 800, this is an estimate of the number of MXUs that we'll need. I will say that we have replaced quite a few MXUs as we get the no reads, we'll go out and replace an MXU. One gets broken, they go out and replace it.
And we're replacing them with the new ones.
Yes, yeah.
The
So,
compatible ones.
yeah. So 850 MXUs quoted out as $168,300. 560 iPearl water meters with the staff installing them, $126,650. If we did the 2 SmartPoint water tower FlexNet installations with training and first year of software, that is just about $178,000. And then the customer portal setup, that would be for the installation and then the training of how to use that portal setup is $15,395. So that would be the total cost for the system. And then there were, I believe Eric asked about the annual cost for any kind of software after that. So there is a network interface software that you would have to pay for annually, and then the customer portal software. And so any sort of annual cost would be about $27,740. And those costs would be split between water and sewer. And I just want to remind you that we're talking about water, sewer, stormwater funds, and those are our enterprise funds. And so we budgeted for this in the CIP, and these are our money-making funds. Not that we're out to make a lot of money, but we are also out to create an efficiency where we see fit, I think, and to increase operations. So looking to the future, I think that's where we were going when we thought out this project. And so I'm happy to answer questions on that, but I do have a few more slides left, but does anybody have questions on the costs?
I do. On that first one, would we be paying that 850 MXUs regardless?
Yes,
So that's.
and the meters eventually.
Just, okay, but maybe just stretched out over a little more time, but we would, okay.
Good question, correct.
No, but my other question might get answered,
Okay,
so.
yeah. So the reason that I delayed this presentation is because there was some question you might ask, why is this not going to bid, right? Like, why aren't we doing a closed bid on, this is a big purchase. It's over $175,000 if you take everything and add it together. So technically, shouldn't this go to a closed bidding process? So we did consult with the city attorney due to the nature of the meter upgrade project, and we've determined the following. Many of the portions of the city are currently equipped to begin using the AMI, while others require some sort of an upgrade to their meter or the MXU. we need to purchase equipment and software in order to have the capability to read these meters. But for the above needs, census products are required to avoid upgrading all 2,358 meters that we have currently in the city. Core & Main in the state of Minnesota, which means this is the only dealer that is able to provide the products that we need for this upgrade and to help support us beyond the upgrade. And so based on the above statements, we would have the ability to forego the bidding requirement by adopting a specific resolution detailing the purchase, the limitations on the dealers, and proving legal authority for proceeding in a non-competitive manner. So this has been done by other cities. Faribault most recently working with Kennedy and Graven. So I am confident that if council does want to move forward, that we would be in a legal spot to do so. So a timeline, if council did direct us to move on this project, we would be looking at the spring to do any sort of determination of what sort of equipment needs to be ordered. And then later spring, the installation of all of the equipment. And then with the goal being that 80% of having this city on 80% of AMI by December. It's an aggressive goal, but I think, you know, we can do big things, and I know that the utilities staff is very determined. Our utilities superintendent has worked with this AMI. Jordan's worked with Andrew's
He did a
worked
meter
with.
change out in Richfield too, so
Oh
he's
gosh, I didn't know that.
familiar with the process.
Yeah.
So help me understand one thing. So it says that sole source, does that mean only source vendor?
Yes.
Okay, it's Core & Main, but then above it, when we're looking at the different cities, we've got a few of them that have Ferguson. So what is the difference if we're saying that this is the only source vendor is Core & Main? I don't
So,
understand.
because we currently use Core & Main for our, we switched to Ferguson for whatever, I don't know that does Ferguson sell Badger though?
Was that just a slide that showed what cities are using AMI?
AMI,
Not
yeah. I
necessarily
don't know
what
what kind
system
of-
they're using?
Yes, yeah. I don't know if they're using Badger meters.
They have Neptune.
So this is the AMI
Neptune.
vendor
Yeah,
is Ferguson or Core & Main, depending, because Georgia.
yeah, I don't know what kind of meters they use.
Okay.
Those are Neptune.
And ask for clarification. So you said that the enterprise accounts are our money-making accounts. I just want to be careful about that. They're money-making in that we have money for investments in the water and sewer system like this
Yes.
per our long-term financial plan.
Yes.
Okay, we're not printing money.
Let me say they're business-like accounts.
Yes, okay.
Let
Thank
me
you.
rephrase that.
Thank you.
Proprietary
I just,
accounts.
you know how snippets get.
Sorry, yes.
Water's a.
I'll have like a gift.
Carver.
I'll have like a,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we safe from cyber attacks? I mean, can somebody mess with that system and jump in and now all the water, everybody use 1 million gallons or everybody use 0?
So that's a good question. So here at the city of Carver, we use Loeffler, we use a managed IT service, and we pay them, you know, you probably see what we pay them on the claims, but for something called managed detection response. And so that detects, you're an IT.
So
too.
to answer that question, this system doesn't control any valves. It is just reporting. So it doesn't put us at risk of infrastructure damage. But the firewalls, you know, that would protect the metering system, that is going to be the company. So the firewalls are only to prevent interference in, we have no reporting information because somebody hacked the system and we lost all the data. Any kind of system is subject to
Right.
that. They're going to have their own firewalls for that.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't impact infrastructure.
No, I realize
It wouldn't
that, yeah.
stop the water flow.
No, I'm saying if you got your bill for 10 million gallons, or you got your bill for
But we
1
do
gallon,
monitor our
but
bills.
not because you used it, because somebody decided to
Yeah,
claim
we
it.
wouldn't generate billing for that, but it would
Right.
disrupt the reporting we were getting.
Yes.
And that same threat exists with our current technology.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know of any, that's damage for damage sake.
Right.
You know, it isn't gonna do physical damage to the city.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it is something I worry about all the time. You know, and
Please speak with me.
we do have our staff go through all kinds of like, you know, cybersecurity training, and as these threats increase, you know, hacking into smart TVs and different things like that, we're constantly looking at how can we become better at that. So that's great that you're concerned about it as well.
And then for the timeline here, because you have February 17th, I still think there's a couple of things that the council wants to see
Yep.
before that is fully approved. So I don't know if we view that at the next work session and then we do the beginning of March, would that affect your timelines at all?
I'm not in any hurry. I just wanted to get the information out. This is a proposed timeline. I have the budget coming up, so I mean, yeah, whatever.
When do we not have the budget coming up?
I mean, I could probably get you this information tomorrow if you wanted it.
Right, I didn't know if the council as a whole wanted to talk about it, because if we were talking about, let's say the 1 meter is going to cover everything, I mean, do we want to talk about it again, or are they going to be like, well, it'll last to this long, but now if we're in the southwest, we're not going to hit these last 100 homes, but that could be 20 years. I don't know, I just didn't know if the council itself wanted to discuss any of the things we've asked to come back, or.
I'd like to see the questions that we have answered before we make a decision.
I would too. I think we can talk about it in our next work session, and it could be a consent item on the agenda, potentially, that could be removed if we need to.
I have one thing I would like to see is, so in 2027, when we need to pay the maintenance for the software subscription, will there be a new line item on the water bills?
No, that would be in our operating budget.
Okay.
That's a good question though.
Yeah.
So I have, get a map of what just Tower 1 would cover, what percentage of homes.
And then for that, I'm sorry, does it, if it will matter which tower it's on too? You know what I mean? Because we've got,
I swear he had that map. I swear he showed us just Tower 1.
because we've got, it shows now 2 towers, but, okay, so let's say we send the one up by Lions, right? Or Mount Hope that we, that one, but did we check it to see if it's on a different tower if it covers?
Yeah, I think what I remember him telling, and it was Tower 1 was pretty much sufficient with a repeater because of those homes
9
along
homes.
Main Street that get blocked out by that
Yeah.
hill. But
Check on that, and then find out too, if we're adding that second, what is the, besides sales, what is the, like, push to have a second one if we don't need it? I mean, I get sales.
how hard is it?
salespeople.
How hard is it to put up another one when we need it?
Right.
That's probably the.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you, sorry, I have
No.
another question,
Yeah.
but did we talk about like how much further to the west when we're going and to the south this will cover, so that if we go with just one in 2.5 years?
Or 20, whatever that looks
Yeah,
like, you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that there are maps that have like radiuses, right, of how far this will go. And is this the map and it will
This is
cover
the map,
everything?
everything in green.
Okay. Okay, then we
Yeah.
have the question, that
I
answers it.
think, is that all of our annexation area and everything? I feel like it might be.
So like
The
close,
north
a little
looks
further north.
sketchy.
Yeah.
I'll have them go north.
They're probably be
To the north.
facing it,
Towards the
And
city as it exists.
South.
which if you
Yeah,
ever have a
southwest
tower in
there.
the south and you put one up there and you got both of them.
And then I'm gonna ask what frequency
Yeah.
band is it operating in?
But Andrew, yeah, you're right, if you have one up on top.
You would think that would.
Yeah,
right?
eventually, yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for letting us present this tonight, and I will get those answers.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if you're okay, we're gonna mix this up a little bit and talk about Kristy's request for the future improvements at Broadway and Main Street West.
Okay. Brent, did everybody have this view, or is this what you have on the computer also?
It's gonna be on the computer.
Okay.
That's when you.
Yeah, can you go,
It's
zoom out?
It's a picture.
yeah, you snapshotted it? Okay. Okay, so
Which one do you want me to be on?
let's not start with that one. That beautiful, beautiful picture. Okay, there you go. So it was really nice that engineer Aaron and Brent met me out on a really freezing cold day in Chaska. But I'll preface with, I think I've made it pretty clear to the rest of the council that when we're talking about this intersection down here on Broadway and Main Street, that I'm not a fan of the configuration on the right-hand side. You know, we looked at this as a whole, and when we were talking about the one over by Casey's, I like that one. I think it makes great sense. I just wanted to bring up a few reasons why, and then I also was in Chaska and down by the gazebo park. They have some bump outs that are, it's kind of hard to see here, but that are, that make it so you can have the angled parking. You can have stop signs on the end of those bump outs so that people can cross safely. So let's go back, Brent. Yep, there we go. So when I'm looking at this, when we turn this to a one-way, I've stated, you know, numerous times, I live where I live and I see 3rd Street a lot. And these are only the times that I'm looking at 3rd Street. And I bet 365 days I watch a car go the wrong direction because it's a short one-way. I'm not opposed to one-ways ever. These little short ones tend to be kind of optional at times, right? So I see people going the wrong direction. Now, having this kind of squished down would eliminate some of that. But when I look at how that is configured, and I think about the delivery trucks that come to our bars, the doghouse has to have it come into the main street because there is no like real good side area, and they're not allowed to go down that alley with their weight or whatever it is. And then Harvey's, they'll be on 3rd Street. Lisa's, they tend to park basically where that bump out is right there now, just south of her building. So they park there, so they're off the main drag and people can get through and they're not blocking traffic. So when I look at this and these trucks having to make that turning radius and then coming in and then having to now park, you're gonna have to park farther down if you're gonna park at all. And then with the cars backing out to come in and out, these aren't, passenger vehicles. These are small, like semi trucks that are coming through here. So I worry a lot about what that flow of traffic is going to look like. Not only for that, but that's a big one. Is to the there's deliveries coming into businesses, and we don't know what could pop up by the getaway. Who knows? But coming through here a couple times a week, and now blocking traffic, blocking cars, blocking parking lots, and then we go into this one way, and we do have the, Riverside Park will eventually open back up, right? So now we're gonna have boats and boats trailers coming out that now have to take a right, to then take a left somewhere to get then back down here to then get out of town or to get that direction. So, well, this looks really pretty on paper and that's great because engineers are supposed to make things look great. I don't think for me that this in reality is gonna be as functional as we would like. Again, I worry about some of these radiuses. I also like the fact that we have added some of these bump outs, these more decorative areas to shorten traffic, to add stop signs. Being that I used to live behind the Getaway Cafe, if I walked my dog, I would never walk my dog across the street in front of where Greg's historic garage is because there's no stop sign and it was for sure, it was run for your life before a car comes around because they don't see you. So it will be nice that you'll have easier pedestrian access at all corners. But I was in Chaska and I've seen this for a long time and I've kind of been mulling this around and bringing it to council, is that down by where gazebo is, where Wells Fargo is, they have those little pieces. Now again, Brent, move you have these little pieces that stick out where, go back, Brent, sorry. Yeah. And then you have a stop sign where you can see it. So it's on the back side of where the angled parking is. So the other one on the right-hand side is by the yellow Chaska truck. It's actually out farther, so you can see when you're coming down that there's a stop sign there. I want council to consider having this be also one of our options at that corner, rather than having, so that would be on all four, and rather than having this one-way constricted drive, and then leaving parking as it is there and not having that piece be a one-way. In talking to Aaron, there would be some cost savings, obviously, because you don't have quite as much of the decorative things going on here, and he didn't know what that would be, but there would be a cost savings to that. And I also did want to mention, because I do know that we had a focus group, or whatever the term was we used for that group, that looked at it. And of course, their information and their thoughts and work on it is valuable. But I also want to say the building that we're sitting in right now, when we had the focus group looking at where to build City Hall, this wasn't even on it. So council asked a request to have another option viewed for a Road being another location. So by asking this, I don't want to say that, oh, this focus group, great, thanks, you did the work, and as a council, we'll just move forward with any of those, because in the past, we've asked to go back to the drawing board for a different style, place, location, whatever that looks like.
So I just want to be clear, you're saying to keep the existing parking arrangement but maintain two-way traffic?
Existing, not what's on here, existing today. So
Existing today, not what's on there.
Don't have the
whole-
pull-in, right?
don't have the pull-in, don't have the angled parking. It's gonna
Okay.
be end-to-end parking, and then we would just bump out on all corners to have stop signs there, rather than having this constricted drive-in. I think the stamped concrete look is great. I think everything that's here is traffic calming measures outside of even just having the stop signs, and it's more pedestrian safe because they're in the road for a lot shorter time. I think we're overdoing that corner when we don't need to be, and I think there's some savings in costs with the stop signs to control the movement of traffic.
Just to refresh my memory, this exercise and this plan was primarily to increase parking, right? Add spots, and that why we did that?
I don't think that was the main focus of this. I thought it was the reconstruction to make something besides a block building and a tugboat sitting at the end, so that it doesn't look so, we get a little blind to it because we see it every day, but if you're first driving into town, I thought it was more of aesthetics of adding a park and the gathering space and things like that. It is adding a total of 8 parking spots.
Okay.
But I want to make sure, because I had asked Aaron, because if you look here where the major bump out is, there's actually parking spots there. So I don't recall when we see this net change of +8, if that for sure includes what we are losing right there by
So if
having
you
this.
shrink those bump outs, you might gain a spot or two. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say you'll have 2 for sure below Lisa's.
Okay.
You may have 3 in that spot.
Did we ever have a picture of what that looked like? To keep it two-way and what the parking would look like?
I don't think so, and that's what I would like to see council look at, and the cost of it. And I don't believe that we ever saw one that just had that. If I'm wrong, tell me, but I don't.
No, I'm asking you
Yeah,
to
I'm
remember.
looking at Brent if
Yeah.
or Corey if you remember. I don't recall having one that looks like that.
So, I don't have an answer to that question, but I'm ready to comment.
Yeah.
If you're, so you mentioned this was something that we asked community members to participate in. You talked about City Hall. That wasn't our council. We weren't on council yet. That was a different group. So, I've talked to folks who have participated in this. I've talked to business owners in this area. I'm sorry, I have so many thoughts on this, and I'm having a hard time stringing them together. First of all, I don't think we have anything to worry about with the turning radius. Aaron wouldn't show us, even in a concept sketch, something that won't work for a beer delivery truck or the Cisco truck or whatever it is that needs to get back in there. I get it that you don't like this, but I'm a little disappointed that we're talking about it again, because this was something the community members, who are still part of our community, have participated in and opined, thinking that they were sharing their voices to help guide us and help give us direction. The business owners that I have talked to were like, yeah, we don't really care as long as we get increased parking down here. We're a lot bit landlocked downtown. And we were talking years ago on a council that we were on about putting these bump outs in before the turnback of the county road. And we were gonna lose parking spaces in there. And ultimately, we decided not to do it. So I think based on the feedback from our community, the folks who spent time to opine, to share their thoughts with us, to come up, that informed this sketch, based on the fact that it's gonna give us more parking, based on the fact that the business owners are clamoring for more parking in a really busy downtown, based on the fact that it's traffic calming and it is going to have, just naturally with those bump outs, slow traffic down, I'm still in favor of this. I was talking to a business owner today and they said that they've had some really scary near misses with folks down in this area, with kids and it being a busier area. When that's a park, it's gonna be even more popular. When the bridge opens, it's gonna become even more popular and the need for parking is gonna be greater than ever.
Okay, so I'm gonna respond to a couple things then. So when we were on the council, Cindy Monroe was the one who said, when we were looking at the council, the city hall, I just wanna be clear, Cindy Monroe said, where in downtown? So I don't wanna go tit for tat, but to say that had nothing to do with us is,
Okay, maybe different operations before we were on council, but.
So I agree with you that there's definitely traffic issues. I mentioned those in talking about this before, is that obviously with adding all of the stop signs there, that helps. I think, I mean, we have always had parking issues downtown. We also added a parking lot behind Harvey's on 3rd Street here that we were told we were going to have a certain number of parking spots, and we ended up, it's a limited anyway, so let's say it's 7 or 9 that's in there. We ended up with 2 less than the engineers started with. And so when we say we're gaining a net 8, does that end up being a net 6? Okay, I think it's being overdone. I think there's money to be saved there. I think that I'm not in favor of the block one way. I understand that the focus group downtown has had a lot to say about it. It looks really great on paper, but I think it would look really good if that all of those 4 corners just matched as bump outs and we took away that constricted area.
I get it that you don't like the one way. I hear you, I know that. I think that's known amongst all of us here. And that's fine to have a different opinion on this, but I don't feel that same way.
I have a response. And it's definitely made, like, your perception or like things you brought up made me rethink some things. But I still favor the one way. And when I think of like the objectives for the project is having our trail connectivity and just to really showcase that Merriam Junction Trail. Of course, safety is a concern, but I feel like we have a good relationship with the engineers. The safety, the aesthetics, we're good there. The parking, I put lower. Like, so for me, it's more about the trail connections. And it's a tough balance. I don't know that you can have, great ideal trail connection and the, a good setup for delivery trucks. I just don't know that you get those two together. Like, I don't know how you would make both happy. So for me, I realize it's not convenient, easy for delivery trucks, but that's not the objective of the project.
Thoughts, Gal?
I'm not a fan of a one-way there. I understand what's trying to be done by narrowing this down and by, trying to increase some parking. But I think that a lot of the safety and traffic issues will be solved simply by putting in clear stop signs in that area, and cleaning up the fact that it is in fact an intersection. I think that putting a one-way there makes traffic in an already kind of confusing, I know it's a grid, but when you're trying to get from point to point in downtown, especially down by the river, there can be some confusion about what goes where, what connects where, what roads connect where, because there's a lot of dead ends. And I think that this is just going to increase some of those problems, as well as, like you said, especially with people coming out of Riverside Park, trying to go west. We're creating additional traffic problems for that. So I don't like the one-way there. That being said, I wasn't part of the original planning process for all of this. I was not here when these focus groups, I was not on the council when these focus groups happened. So obviously my opinion should be taken with a grain of salt, but that's my opinion on that stretch there.
Eric, thoughts on one?
Yeah, so, we have to forward think what this landing is going to be when it's built. So we've got a park there, we've got a trail access there. We're going to have utility there that just doesn't exist today. And as I recall, this whole process was not just parking, but a bit of a beautification project. It expands the area around the that park and entrance to the trail. So it serves more function than just adding parking. I think the idea was to really slow it down. You're only looking one way for cars coming. You're not looking both ways. I agree. I don't like short one-ways either. That's confusing, but because it is such an important part of the landing asset, the trail entry asset, with those in mind, I would still support the way it looks, this concept plan, because it was more than the parking. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
But I don't want to discount the concern, because Kristy, you have a close pulse on what things look like downtown. You see it all the time. I understand the concern. I think it'll be confusing for the people that have been there for a while, but that will, those things change with time. And this is going to be a central gathering place for the city. So that's the reason for my decision.
sure. Okay, well, I think I've made it clear that I don't prefer the angled parking there and the one-way and the other parts of the project. I think there was money to be saved by going down to just having the 4 stop signs and the bump outs there. And but the rest of the council has spoken, so I will say thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kristy. All right. And I appreciate you bringing it up. I understand your concerns, but take your direction. All right, Milestone Program Amendments and Employee Performance Pay, Mr. Mareck.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. So, if you remember, in 2025, the council adopted a pay-for-performance program that we dubbed the Milestone Program. It was in conjunction with a class and compensation study that the city funded through the 2025 budget. And so it set up 8 milestones based on the ability to have advanced skills training, performance measures through quarterly check-ins and an annual performance review, and then years of service. And so we built this from scratch, as you know, and so as a part of kind of understanding what worked and what didn't, all the supervisors that participated in the program provided feedback not only based on their observations, but the feedback that they got from the folks that also participated in it. And so we're offering for a discussion and review some adjustments. You'll see there's a red line in the packet, but there's just some adjustments of, I would call it, administrative program tasks that were a little bit too specific, related to timelines, etc. So we've scaled those back. We also wanted to expand. There was some questions related to, we have some folks on our staff that have required licensure through the state. So building inspecting staff, utility staff, and would be specific examples. And so we wanted to provide some type of credit towards that. But we also, as a team, and I would offer as our kind of workplace culture, our team culture, is the importance of having people with strong interpersonal skills, being able to have tough conversations, manage conflict, establish a trusting environment. So we wanted to lean into that. And so you'll notice that we have at least 20% of that training requirement, where 4 hours out of 20 would need to be done for that. And actually, one of the things that I think somebody in the room had an idea related to that was to see if we could do a group training for that. And so just a little bit ahead of that, I reached out to some folks that I participated in that training with, and we're getting a proposal so that like the whole staff could do a conflict resolution type of training as an entire team. So and when thinking about that idea, it's a lot of excitement about not just doing that, but doing it with the people that you would maybe have an opportunity to do that with. We also found that there's some gap years between Milestone 7 and 8, and thought that there could be some unintended consequences to folks waiting 2 years to get through a milestone, even if they had the years of service. So we named that. And then finally, we're going to have some people that'll make it through the Milestone program, be at that top pay, and they could be on staff for another 10 to 15 years. Do you want to provide, and again, these are all suggestions for the council. You might have some tweaks or like some and not like some, but under that situation, you'd have an employee who could be at max pay for that, let's say 10 years, and they would be eligible for only cost of living adjustments or whatever the council approved for the pay scale increase. And so this provides a Milestone graduate status that takes that cost of living adjustment and adds 1%. So I would say that's probably the biggest, I would offer as like the stretch as far as like a new policy initiative within the confines. I would offer that items 1 through 3 are more administrative and program cleanups, and recognize that the 4th provision is more of a policy shift that involves a bunch of other things. But again, that's just my editorial, so happy to answer any questions or sit back and listen to the council discuss. So we're offering this as a discussion, and then would, based on your feedback, either bring back to staff for additional discussion or place on a future regular meeting agenda.
So do we have, so I see specifically called out under the advanced skills development, if you want to go to the red line
Sure.
spot. So it says that those, and you mentioned it, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it completely. So if you are required specific safety to have your job, that's not going to count. Like if I work in public works, so did we have anyone who was doing the steps right now that was using some of that because we didn't have it called out?
No, so as a part of it's kind of spelled out in here, but maybe a little vaguely is your training plan has to be approved by your supervisor. So like training for like OSHA training, like report or right to know, bloodborne pathogens, chainsaw safety, or if, for instance, we got to do software program, like that doesn't count towards training.
Okay.
But for example, if we have someone with a C licensure and they're going to a class that even though it maintains their licensure, it's like it's new developing material. We felt like we should recognize that, but the other types of training that you mentioned would not and would still not be credited toward their hours.
Okay, and whether public services or office staff, nobody did that already?
Correct.
Okay, because I would want to take it away because we didn't spell it out right. So if
Correct.
it was, I would leave it the way it is.
Correct.
Okay.
Brent, just out of curiosity, what percentage of folks participated in this last year?
All of them. It's not
Okay.
this isn't a voluntary program.
Oh,
So
who accomplished all of the?
100%.
Okay, that, I guess my question is who accomplished
Yes.
the goals?
Yes.
Great, okay. When I talked to Brent, like about what questions I have, I asked him about the Milestone graduate, because I just wasn't understanding it at first initially. But I think it's a great idea. I think 1% is a good starting point, and I certainly don't want to punish folks for longevity. So if we can do something to keep them here beyond 8 years, especially like for that kind of institutional knowledge that folks will get after that amount of time, I think that that's great. And if anything, that's something that we can look to increase over the years and kind of see how that goes and what percentage of our folks get to that point.
So I agree with that. I think individuals that have the initiative to get through this program and reach all of those milestones, those are typically the folks that are doing the highest level of work for the city, the most expensive to replace, and a 1% increase in pay is a great retention tool. And we've talked about that in the past, how important it is to retain that level of employee. So I support that too.
I do too. I mean, if we were getting to the, 9th year of this, you're not just sticking around because you want that 1%, right? You're working here because you plan on being here. I don't think anyone's gonna be like, oh, I made it to my milestone 8, bye, I'm out of here.
It's good for me, the number 6.
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea to have that milestone graduate.
I don't like the milestone graduate. We already do a cost of living adjustment that we have control over. That was part of when you established this program, you increased the control that we have over what we increase the overall pay. And if we are just saying that, milestone graduates now, everyone, regardless of where they are in the program, is eligible for this pay increase, then it just seems unnecessary above and beyond what we already have with our cost of living increases, given the flexibility that we have within those numbers there, so.
Do you understand that they get the cost of living and then this is separate
Yes.
from that?
Yes.
And that they wouldn't get this once they reach that top tier?
Yes.
Okay.
I think, Kayla, when I look at this, I think, yes, everyone we do a COLA, but we can't pick and choose like an exemplary employee and be like, okay, now you're gonna get 6, you know what I mean? But no, I'm just saying this is the way I look at it with this, is that, we can't be like, well, Kim did a great job, she gets 6%, sorry, Lori, you get 1% and you can have 3. So for me, this extra incentive to invest into the job, and then to be hitting 8 years. I know, I'm trying to think, I can't remember the latest stats on how long people are staying at their positions before job switching, like the average, but it's short. And so when you can get people who are going to put in this many years, are going to stay, and we have that knowledge and that historical, work that they've done, and I just think of like Paul Schultz right now. Paul's been here so long, if we're like, Paul, why did this happen, or where was
In
this?
1983, why did this happen?
Where was this pipe? Oh yeah, we put it over here 20 years ago, so look right there, it's in the ground, or something, whatever that might be. So I think that, like I said, I totally get what you're saying, like we already do a raise, this is just in, that addition when we could formally adjust that during our session.
If 100% of our employees are meeting these milestones, are we really rewarding exemplary employees by adding another level?
So maybe I need some more clarification from Brent then on this. So when you said everybody is in it, but they don't have to complete it, that's up to them?
Correct.
Okay.
So
You start a plan, but if you work the plan, you get it.
if you finish short on your training or you don't meet your performance goals, then you wouldn't be eligible. So I would offer that the 100% completion is not a sign of lack of rigor. It's a sign of the people that you have here. Could it be more rigorous? Obviously, it could be. But we've also set it up where it's like we're trying. You could have more training requirements. You could establish some, I would say, data sets for like performance measures. But when we put this together, one of our key things was like, this is like the don't be a jerk performance measurement system that we're really like leaning into what we feel we hear from the council on what makes Carver of like those soft skills and the ability to manage through that. So, I take no position on what what that value is, that's the council's, choice, but, just presenting kind of that data from a perspective that I have.
Lori, any thoughts?
I'm having a hard time like thinking of the scenarios, so, but
Sure.
I really liked how Councilmember Hirschman referenced retention. I mean, to me, this is great for that purpose.
I can, maybe this anecdote will help as it relates to the Milestone graduate, because like, and Lynn and Brenda and Andrew were in the room as supervisors when this idea brought up. To be like very unvarnished, I was opposed to it. And a senior employee, well, I won't share the name, but said, so based on the current program, incentive aside, there's no reason for me to try to get top contributor, leader, or maintain training, because I'm gonna get cost of living regardless. Now, do I love that point of view? No, and so that was me willing to put this in for council consideration, was a nod to that, like, how can we maintain that? Is that too much or too little? That's a choice for the council, how it fits within the whole program.
So if you're given the plan to do, I mean, so you don't finish it this year, you can finish it next year? I mean, it's not.
It's not rolling, so your clock, everything's resets January 1st of each year.
Gotcha. And I'm sorry, why did we move it from the 6, I was thinking it was 8 years still, so when I look at milestone 8, it makes me think 8 years. So why is it 6 years now?
Because you may have someone, so previously it was 8, and if you look at milestone 7, it's 6. And so it's scaled up each of those years, because there'll be employees that start with service credit because they've worked for other cities. In the program, we give credit if they've had a similar position in another city. So there was an unintended consequence of creating a gap. If you want that to exist, it can stay in there as well.
That's just years of experience, there's still 8 steps.
Correct.
Right, so you could, I know, but then you're doing more than one step a year? Or is that because you said because
No.
people are starting at a?
You could have somebody that based on their service credit, they could start at 2 years of service
Gotcha.
to the city. But there's a maximum of 1 milestone per year, because fundamentally, based on the program rules, you couldn't complete all the same steps in 1 calendar year, because the check-in and performance reviews are based on that year, so you can't double up on that.
Okay.
Lori, did you ask all your questions?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I think I'm hearing support for this.
Yes, for me.
All right. Any other questions on this?
I do have a question.
Don't
Call
wait,
it retention bonus, or
Pardon?
can we call it retention bonus, or is that it's not the, that's not what it's gonna
bonus,
get?
because
Okay.
that's not what it is. Bonus
point.
is like a, hey, we made a lot of money, here's your portion of it. That's not how the city works. This is something that folks specifically work towards. Kristy?
Because I still had milestone 8 as 8 years in my head, I was really comfortable with the 8 years. So when I see that it's 6, that isn't quite the longevity I guess I had in my head. So I'm just trying to come to terms with if I feel exactly the same as I did about that 2-year difference. So,
If you don't mind, we're gonna move ahead, because I think you're the only one with that concern.
yeah.
This is, we don't have anything else on the agenda.
Oh, you don't have city manager's report?
I don't
All
have
right.
any updates, sorry.
Take up to 7 minutes. Accepted.
Does anyone else have any, thoughts on those years changes?
So I think, I see where it was creating a gap. So if you're milestone 6, you couldn't, in the old program, you couldn't make it up to milestone 7 for 2 years. Because you have to have 2 years of experience between those two. Whereas between 4 and 5 and 5 and 6, it's just a single year. So I see where this is cleaning that up a little bit.
Yeah, I think if you, might be helpful, if you look at Milestone 4 requires 2 years of service, so that's where Milestone 1, 2, and 3 don't require any years of service, so that's what created the gap.
6.
But again, this is a total, subjective, you decide how you want this program to be. Because I can't offer you that what is being presented is the best way, because this is a policy decision. We rely on the council to formulate and approve policy choices. And as I'm speaking or preaching to the choir here, but budget and what you pay employees is significant as it relates to budget and not only internally but externally, how you communicate that to residents. So take all the time you need. If you want me to bring this back to the next work session, I can do that as well. Or if you want more discussion to happen or changes,
So one question then, so Milestone graduates, so if there's an extra 1% in perpetuity, if someone starts here at age 20 and works here till they're 50, what does that look like?
position is 1% of.
Yeah.
I mean, and Councilmember Conrade, you've been here around long enough that cost of living has been as high as 8, I think, and as low as 0. And there have been years, when LMC, or not LMC, LGA was cut, where there was a complete just pay freeze. So there's a lot of variables that go with it. That's just one of the reasons that we liked having in the union agreement and this is that the cost of living adjustment is entirely up to the council based on variables that you choose. Where in the past it was based on this one CPI calculator from the Federal Reserve. And so you were locked into that no matter kind of what it said. So this provides you with that flexibility. But there is, yes, that 1% and then what that does. And, one of the, I would say, conversation pieces that I offer that at some point, there is if you have a position in Carver, but you want to make more money, there is a pay. And so just reconciling that.
Well, what I was just gonna say too is I've been city staff in a couple of cities. The reason I ended up at the city of Carver was, or ended up at the city of, Victoria or whatever, was because, and I mean, this is sort of an unwritten thing between city government staff. If you wanna make more money, you gotta switch to the next city to get it. Because you're not gonna get a bonus, you're not gonna get that big raise, you're gonna get the COLA, you're gonna get
stock options.
There's no stock options, there's nothing. So it really is an unwritten kind of what's known is that if you get some experience, you work a few years, and then you hop to the next city or the next county and reapply and ask for more money, and that's how you make jumps in local government when you work for local government. That's the only way you make jumps.
You were such a champion for having the employee engagement survey and how do we make sure that our folks are happy? This is just another outcropping of that and just kind of an expansion of that. I think you're right, folks could potentially make more money absolutely working in Eden Prairie or Crystal or anywhere inside the 494 loop. But I think, we talked about this a little bit. You guys know how I feel in jinxes, so I don't even want to say it. But in 2025, we lost 0 employees on their own leaving the city of Carver. That was the first year of this program. Is it a coincidence? Right now it is, because you need probably 2 or 3 years until you can see if it's a pattern. And if somebody gets a great opportunity in Phoenix, of course we're going to lose them. But this is starting off strong.
Yeah, you don't go in every year and renegotiate your salary with your city administrator, your city manager. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So, thank you. I'm talking through all this, but I'm still then on board with this 1% because that does make it. I had to look back a little bit to think of how places and people move around in local government.
Look at that.
To your
7
point-
minutes, you did it.
Yeah, we haven't done there. I'm done. Sorry, not wait.
To your point of an employee staying for a long time, hooray, it worked. And that's really what this is. This is retention, and if we can keep them longer from going to another city, it worked. the biggest mistake, the most expensive mistake we can make is losing someone. And if this program helps keep them in 2026, I think losing one good employee in the months it takes to bring somebody up to speed and being as useful in their job exceeds the cost of this program, as it did when we initially talked about it. So I'm completely in favor of it, and I want them to stay 30 years or 40 years and retire. I'll shut up.
Yeah. No, I think it's important that our staff know that we value the work that they do. We can't give them stock options. Pizza lunches only go so far. At the end of the day, people want to get paid, and this helps do that, especially the Milestone program for that longevity component. So, all right, I think you have what you need from us.
So you're okay with next meeting agenda?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
I am.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Brenda put that email that you got on the council DS, so
And there's a second one on there.
from
Okay.
Brian.
From Brian.
They want